Alright, hello world. So I kind of just wanted to make a short video showing off something I've been thinking about for a while, and this idea kind of sparked from a couple of things. I'm gonna bring up another tab. So if you don't know, there is this awesome YouTuber called, let me show you, Randall Game Dev, and like last week, I think, 2 days ago, he made this video where he explained kind of how he makes games, and he showed off that he's been making a blueprint for Odin, and in it, I downloaded it, I cloned it from GitHub, and I kind of read through the code, and it's really good. I really recommend doing it yourself. If you're watching this video and for some reason don't know about Randy, you should subscribe to him and go into this video.
So you want to make,
and there's this link down here. You just put in your email address and you get a link to the GitHub. So big recommend. Anyways, I've been experimenting in Jai a lot, kind of thinking about how to approach the approach from a simple perspective, similar to the blueprint that Randy did, for how you could structure games. And something I realized is the idea of creating a very advanced or complex system for entities and components, or systems and that stuff. There's no point to it, really. It's the games I'm prototyping, or the games I will be making in the future. They won't be AAA grade. They won't have super complicated rendering. There won't be any physically based rendering. There's no need for super high performance. So the point should be to have a fast incremental system where I can iterate. The best possible way is that I can iterate super fast while keeping the code relatively simple. So that's, I started coding something and I just wanted to record it. That's enough rant. So right now I have this, let me just walk through what I have right here. It could be interesting. So I have this entity struct right now, and the idea is that this is my mega entity struct, and this entity struct, unlike a classical ECS where we split all the components, to like optimize for the cache line, only have the data we need available at the point we need it. Instead, with this approach, we're going to have all of the data in one struct, and it's not going to be as fast, but it will definitely be fast enough. I mean, how much data will really be inside an entity? So the idea is that there will be a mega struct, and so that's not all, of course. You need more than that. So you need something to hold entities. You need ways to get entities without it being slow. So I have this entity world struct. It holds an array of all the entities in the world. It's a dynamic array. I'm also kind of thinking about grouping entities by their kind. This should be kind, really. And this should be kind also. So a game might have, for example, say we're making a platform game. There will be an entity of the player kind, there will be an entity of the slime kind, there would probably be an entity of the, I don't know, tile kind, or the walkable ground or wall. So this is where you would put all of those in here. That's a way to differentiate between entities in some way. So each entity has a type. Of course, this won't be type anymore. This would be kind. So that's kind of it. And So for our slime, or also maybe for the player, they will have HP, and if we had a ground, for example, I don't know what would a ground would probably have a collider of some kind. I'm not sure, etc. A light source would need a position, but so would a player, so they can share this property, of course. More examples. Yeah, I think you get the point. We put all of the properties in here. They can be shared among kinds, but for a given kind, they have all the properties of the entity. So it would be, that way it's kind of easy to create new entities, because all you will need to do is kind of insert the kind, insert the new unique properties, and then implement the different functions like update, init, and render. So let's think about this. So another thing, of course, a slime. If slime is an enemy, say a slime would need to have awareness of all other slimes to avoid collision with them. That's what I'm thinking with this entity group. So instead of having to, in each slime, you would have to iterate through like this, and then check if the kind is equal to slime. Then we know we have a slime. Since that's kind of slow, we have this, and it's not slow, but it's not optimal. We'll have these groups, so each entity that gets inserted is grouped by their kind into different buckets. So for this case, we would do give me all entities of slimes, and this is an array of pointers to entities from this world array. Yeah. See, we're going fast. Only 7 minutes. So let's think about this. So the entity world is the one I'm currently working on. So the entity world first in each update. So this would be each frame. Maybe update should be tick. I don't know. I'm not sure what I prefer. Update is what I'm used to from Unity. So that's what I'm doing. So each update or each frame, we first check if the world is marked dirty, and dirty essentially means have we added or removed some entity since the last frame. So always set this to false. So if the world's dirty, we need to rebuild the world, and right now we just reset the kinds, and then we would iterate. So we would iterate through world entities, and then we would array add to world entity groups at index it.kind, and we would insert, this would need to be point, so we will insert it, and array add takes a pointer. Yeah, so you can see how we're kind of creating buckets. I saw that Jai has this bucket array. I might use that later on. So we would have instead of a 2D array, we would have a bucket array. I haven't read the implementation, but I'm guessing bucket array is similar to having just this. But maybe I think it comes with some useful functions. Anyway, so each update we do this, or each rebuild we group up the entities, and then we can iterate through all of them. So updating would be, or if it's dirty, it's a little slow, but that's fine. So then we just do, I have this, on each entity we have an update proc. This would need to be pointers, and this doesn't work. Update proc, right? Is that not it? Oh, of course, it wants the delta time. That was 1. Let's just put something here. 1. Yeah. That kind of makes sense. Rebuild, update. we can also, let's implement an what do they regularly call it? Is there some example here? Init? No, not really. I don't know. Let's call this entity world init, which will take in an entity world. And what we need to do here, I think, is there an array init for some? No. We could do array reset, or we could do array reserve. Yeah. But yeah, what we want to do is iterate for 0 to max entities. We don't need this actually. Maybe we don't need an init for now. Yeah. What we do want though is an entity world add. And add takes in the entity world, and we take in the thing we want to add. And this one I'm not so sure of. So the idea here would be that we have, for example, an create slime function. For now it takes in the world, I'm not sure about that. Let's remove that, and let's remove that, and let's just do... This would create a stack allocated entity, which would be... This would be get removed out of the stack. I'm not sure. Let's try something here. No, entity, of course. So entity, update, set it to slime, update, set the kind to slime, and initialize HP. Then we need to do that, and we need to do that. I'm not sure how this will work. I think this will create a copy and then give it to us. Let's try. So how do we try this? We can do that. We can do that. Then we can print slimy.hp. Slimy.hp. Let's see what this can do. Oh, yeah. That's now. So compile. Yeah, slime HP becomes 50. So we get something valid back. That's what I wanted to check. So maybe this world add should take in the function, or the factory function that gives back the entity we want to insert. It could also take in entity directly. Maybe let's do that. And so array add world entities, and we insert entity. And then we need to say that the world is 30. And we also, so it's 30. Let's think about this. Do we want to set 30? Yeah, we want to set 30. We should, for simplicity here, we can just do, so it's inserted, and the way we retrieve it would be like this, and then we would call init proc, and we would pass in, oh, this is messy. Does array add return something? No. Let's get it. So world entities at index world entities -1. Then we have it, so we can do new e.init proc passing. This would be count -1. Yeah, of course, it's already a pointer. Yeah. I also need a sec. So it would be something like this, and but instead here we will call it render proc, and render proc only takes in it. So entity world add. That's what we would do here. We would add world, and we want to add slimy. And then in here this is wrong. I want to do entity world update. Here I just added some, printing the amount of milliseconds it takes to do this. So let's compile and let's run, and we get something wrong. Attempted index is 1, but the highest valid index is 1. No, the unattempted index is 2. Line 27. Line 27. How does this 2D array thing work? Oh, yeah. -1. Of course. Yeah, that works. And it takes under 1 millisecond. That's says anything. There's 18 milliseconds in 60 frames, so cool. So the interesting thing now I want to try, so let's go to create slime, and let's do create layer. And just kind of copy paste this kind of, but we need to replace all of these. That's kind of irritating. Let's create a new file called entities. How do I do this? Entities, maybe? Sure. I want to move all of this. So let's make a file called entity and move all of this shit. All of this into here. I don't think we use this. We don't, so let's move it. What do we need in this file? We want to scope file this function. No, I should call that function aside of the entity system. Let's put all of the type definitions on top. And then we have our functions, our update, our add. We should also have a remove, to be honest. Let's do that. How do we remove? Let's do one that takes in a pointer to an array we want to remove. So it has to come from the array. And I think there's an array. Oh, we need to load this file. Let's do that down here. So load entity. There we go. Now array. Unorder remove by value. Each entity needs a unique ID, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, each entity needs a unique ID. That ID, it can't be the index, since index will change if we add a remove. We can't use, can we use some kind of generational ID? Maybe. Sorry, I'm just thinking. Oh, how do we do this? Do we put IDs here? No. Put ID here. And then when we add something, we need to set the ID here. For now, let's do something random, but that's not good. But this is not good either, because now it's modifying entity in here. We don't want that. Let's skip this for now. Actually, let's skip it for now. It's not what I wanted to do. Player update. Then we would do, let's see, so here, player, and the kind would no longer be slime, now it's a player. The player has more HP. So now we can do create player, and we can insert that player. That player gets inserted, and now what I want to do inside update is to here I want to do slimes would be world needs to be something I can put in the context, I think, later on, but for now that works. So we should put a pointer to the world in a context so we can access it. But for now we can put it as a global, and we can do get all the slimes by doing world.entity groups on index slime. Okay, we can't use, okay. Yeah, this doesn't have to be, it could be a regular enum int, maybe something refer to. Okay, not sure how we assign values to. Not sure how we actually assign values to enum, so let's see if we can find some example. So enum, no enum here, maybe in simp. Oh, okay, so it's, I see. I'm not sure if we need to do this, but let's do it here. And then we check, we can actually just do it like this. Then we can do get the HP and minus equal 10. Okay, down to yeah. And then in slime update, we can say HP equal to, then we get the HP of our slime. Will this work? Yes. So now we can kind of see how we can access entities. What we want to do now, see it wrapped. What we want to do now is be able to remove entities. Entity world remove. And what we want to do is array remove. We could unknown remove by value, and we want to do entities. This won't compile, right? No. But I think this will compile. No. This needs to be a point. Let's see. So what I am passing. Let's see. So I'm passing a pointer to an array of entities. So that's correct, and it's entities, and the item needs to be a non-pointer of that type. So why is this not working? Polymorph generation. While generating a polymorph of this procedure, remove by value with the following constants: t equal to entity. That correct? It's not telling me, so it's a mismatch some kind of way. Maybe this actually, Okay, let me back out and let me go into here and let me bring up this code because I have done this. Let's do. Here I have pointers to something. ID reference, and this is a pointer, and this is an array to pointers. Yeah. So what we could do instead, maybe, is have an index. Maybe this compiles at least. But then we need to look up the entity by its. We would pass in the ID of the entity we want to remove. So this compiles, but it's not good. So ID, and then we would have something that's like index, which is entity world get by ID, which would be a function on here. Insert here that index equal to 0. Yeah, so in here we would have something. I think this is where the idea of handles coming. I think, yeah. But the simple solution here for now, I think, would be to put the ID in here. And then we can just iterate through world entities like this. And then we can just check if it ID is equal to ID. I'm not sure if there's I don't think there's any way to. Let's do that, and let's do that, and let's do that. So how do we assign the ID? That's the big problem. Let's make ID a signed 64. Or maybe an unsigned 64. So that would be 8 bytes. Quite a lot. What's the max value of what's the max value of U32? 4 billion. So 4 billion is more than enough. The next ID, which can be initialized to 0. And then when we do add, we say here we say that the ID is equal to world next ID, and then we say next ID is incremented by 1. So this should ensure unique IDs, but we don't reuse IDs. Could have some kind of idea like, I'm not sure. This works for now. Up until the point we have instantiated over the lifetime of the game 4 billion entities, because then we might have overlap, but yeah, this works. So this removes it. So let's see if this works now. Let's go into main. Let's go into slime update. And here we can try to do this here. So if our HP is less than or equal to 0, we do entity world remove, and we say pass our world, and then we pass our ID, telling the entity world to remove us. And we should mark it dirty after, so we rebuild true. So we rebuild the tables to the pointers, because otherwise we will get something here which is an invalidated pointer because we have removed it from our entities list. Let's see if this compiles. Let's see if this runs. It did. Cool. And we can see that the milliseconds kind of is there any way to, yeah, of course. That's a giant terminal. We can see that the slime update gets called, and the player update also gets called, which gets all the slime of gets all the entity kind of type slime, decrements the HP by 1 each update. The slime checks on itself, are we dead? Then it removes itself, and after that the player update won't get any slimes back here, so we won't accidentally dereference anything. If we did not mark the world dirty, I think this would crash. Let's check. Let's take down the HP a bit. 50. Let's build. Let's run. Why does it not crash? Why does it not crash? I'm not sure. If we did this, we shouldn't get any. Should be any decrementation of the HP. No. So we correctly mark it dirty here, but for some reason, because we remove but the point, it should still exist in here because it existed here because it was rebuilt. Let's make sure we have saved. Let's try it again. So it goes down now because we marked it dirty, and here it dies, but we don't get any crashes. We can remove this. Let's check here. Player attacking all slimes. It keeps printing something. Will it not keep printing if I do this? That's a little worrying. Are we accessing some kind of memory and now it shouldn't print anything after it's done. Yeah. Alright, but I'm not sure why it doesn't crash, but this works. Cool. Yeah, so now I have the basic stuff. We have the add, remove, we have update, init, and render. So I could start reincorporating this into my prototype, I think. There is, of course, questions regarding like systems. an input. I think input can just be checked inside the update. But for example, in this other prototype I have, yeah, in this other prototype, let's see what we're doing. So we have, this is out of date now, but like we have some globals, like we have models which are just loaded by someone, or it's loaded in the main, but it stores 4 different raylib models. We have like a global array of place models. This place model could be an entity, so that's fine. But I'm not sure how we should store like shared data that's not part of an entity. How do you do that? If we look at something more complex, there's this thing called Bevy, which is, it's an ECS driven game engine. This one uses components. And to, how do you, let's see, to share data in Bevy, you do resources. So there's an entity which is just a number, and component, they represent a group of data, same for us, but component is just a big entity. But most apps will also require globally unique data, like storing 4 loaded models from the file system. They have this, we represent globally unique data using the resource rate. Here are some examples of data that could be encoded as a resource. Yeah, I'm thinking. So in here they have like, you create a struct and you mark it as a resource, and in that way you can insert it into this ECS system. That's fine. I mean, our entity world could have like a resource thing, and that's it. That could just be a struct in our game. Yeah, and that would be super unique for our game. Yeah, this struct would hold like models. I don't know. And then in our like main function over here, where we create stuff, we could do like world resources, and then here we could do stuff. And then other entities, like say we have this kind of model index for an entity. A prop could just, when it's rendered, it could get the world, resources, model, use model index to get the model. That's a super straightforward way to do it. And I think that's how I will do it, actually. That should work. What other stuff? There is this interesting concept of sending events to each other. And that could be, for example, what's a good example? Say we want to send out a signal that a slime died, because we have this particle entity that we want to instantiate when that happens. And in that case, we would want some data. Like we want, for example, with the particles, we could also just instantiate or create the particles when the slime dies in place in the code. What's another example? Up input, maybe. Say we want to detect pressing D for the player. We should just be able to do that in the update. For example, if we're using relib, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna end this now, because now I'm just sitting here expanding it in my head, and that's not good. So I'm gonna end this here. That's code from work. Yeah, so the next step, this is all preparation for a game jam I'm very excited for, which is the GMTK Game Jam 2025. So I'm going to do this game jam with this idea in mind, based on the blueprint by Randall, and based on not using an engine and just kind of coding the way I think is fun. So if you're planning on joining this jam and you're also going to use a no engine approach, please feel free to comment, and maybe there's some type of cooperation we can do, especially if we're going to do a Jai. I know there's not a lot of people out there using Jai. You never know. Yeah, and I'm going to take this code that I did now and rewrite my prototype to use that kind of system ish. And then I'm going to see how it spins. I'm going to try to add some new features to the prototype and just kind of get a feel for if this is even something worth doing. But yeah, as I said, this is a very simple approach in reality, and it's not friendly in terms of memory. We are accessing all of the data on each entity. We are breaking cache lines. We are using dynamic arrays. We are using a lot of unnecessary for loops. But as I said, for the type of games we're making, because we're hobby game devs, we are not making in general the most complex, demanding games. This type of programming is more than good enough. Alright, so it's been 50 minutes. Thank you if you watched any of this, and have a great day. Bye bye.